My name is Frances Townsend, and I'm 22 years old. 2 weeks ago, I stood on a graduation stage in front of 3,000 people, while my parents, the same people who refused to pay for my education because I wasn't worth the investment, sat in the front row with their faces drained of all color. They came to watch my twin sister graduate. They had no idea I was even there. They certainly didn't know I'd be the one giving the keynote speech. But this story doesn't begin at graduation. It begins 4 years earlier, in my parents' living room, when my father looked me straight in the eyes and said something I will never forget. Before I continue, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy this story. And let me know in the comments, where are you watching from, and what time is it there? Now let me take you back to that summer evening in 2021. The acceptance letters arrived on the same Tuesday afternoon in April. Victoria got into Whitmore University, a prestigious private school with a price tag of $65,000 a year. I got into Eastbrook State, a solid public university. $25,000 annually, still expensive but manageable. That evening, Dad called a family meeting in the living room. "We need to discuss finances," he said, settling into his leather armchair like a CEO addressing shareholders. Mom sat on the couch, hands folded. Victoria stood by the window, already glowing with anticipation. I sat across from Dad, still clutching my acceptance letter. "Victoria," Dad began, "we'll cover your full tuition at Whitmore. Room, board, everything." Victoria squealed. Mom smiled. Then Dad turned to me. "Frances, we've decided not to fund your education." The words didn't register at first. "I'm sorry?" "Victoria has leadership potential. She networks well. She'll marry well, build connections. It's an investment that makes sense." He paused, and what came next felt like a knife sliding between my ribs. "You're smart, Frances, but you're not special. There's no return on investment with you." I looked at Mom. She wouldn't meet my eyes. I looked at Victoria. She was already texting someone, probably sharing the good news about Whitmore. So I just figure it out myself? Dad shrugged. "You're resourceful. You'll manage." That night, I didn't cry. I'd cried enough over the years, over missed birthdays, hand-me-down gifts, being cropped out of family photos. Instead, I sat in my room and realized something that changed everything. To my parents, I wasn't their daughter. I was a bad investment. But what Dad didn't know, what nobody in this family knew, was that his decision would alter the course of my entire life. And 4 years later, he'd face the consequences in front of thousands. The thing is, this wasn't new. The favoritism had always been there, woven into the fabric of our family like an ugly pattern everyone pretended not to see. When we turned 16, Victoria got a brand new Honda Civic with a red bow on top. I got her old laptop, the one with a cracked screen and a battery that lasted 40 minutes. "We can't afford two cars," Mom had said apologetically. But they could afford Victoria's ski trips, her designer prom dress, her summer abroad in Spain. Family vacations were the worst. Victoria always got her own hotel room. I slept on pull-out couches, in hallways, once even in a closet that the resort called a cozy nook. In every family photo, Victoria stood center frame, glowing. I was always at the edge, sometimes partially cut off like an afterthought. When I finally asked Mom about it, I was 17, desperate for answers. She just sighed. "Sweetheart, you're imagining things. We love you both the same." But actions don't lie. A few months before the college decision, I found Mom's phone unlocked on the kitchen counter. A text thread with Aunt Linda was open. I shouldn't have read it, but I did. "Poor Frances," Mom had written. "But Harold's right. She doesn't stand out. We have to be practical." I put the phone down and walked away. That night, I made a decision I told no one about. Not because I wanted revenge, because I wanted to prove something to myself. I opened my laptop, the cracked one with the dying battery, and typed into the search bar, "Full scholarships for independent students." The results loaded slowly, but what I found would change everything. I did the math at 2 a.m., sitting on my bedroom floor with a notebook and a calculator. Eastbrook State, $25,000 per year. 4 years, $100,000. Parents' contribution, $0. My savings from summer jobs, $2,300. The gap was staggering. If I couldn't close it, I had 3 options. Drop out before I even started. Take on 6 figures of student debt that would follow me for decades. Or go part-time, stretching a 4-year degree into 7 or 8 while working full-time. Every path led to the same place, becoming exactly what my father said I was. The failure. The bad investment. The twin who didn't make it. I could already hear the family conversations at Thanksgiving. Victoria's doing so well at Whitmore. Frances? Oh, she's still figuring things out. But this wasn't just about proving them wrong. It was about proving myself right. I scrolled through scholarship databases until my eyes burned. Most required recommendations, essays, proof of financial need. Some were scams. Others had deadlines that had already passed. Then I found something. Eastbrook had a merit scholarship program for first-generation and independent students. Full tuition coverage plus a living stipend. The catch? Only 5 students per year were selected. The competition was brutal. I saved the link. Then I kept scrolling. And that's when I first saw the name that would eventually change my life. The Whitfield Scholarship. Full ride, $10,000 annually for living expenses. Awarded to only 20 students nationwide. I laughed out loud. 20 students in the entire country. What chance did I have? But I bookmarked it anyway. I had 2 choices: accept the life my parents designed for me or design my own. I chose the second. But to do that, I needed a plan. And I needed it immediately. I filled an entire notebook that summer. Every page was a calculation. Every margin was covered in plans. Job number 1, barista at the morning grind, a campus cafe. Shift, 5 to 8 a.m. Estimated monthly income, $800. Job number 2, cleaning crew for the residence halls. Weekends only, $400 a month. Job number 3, teaching assistant for the economics department if I could land it, another $300. Total, $1,500 per month, roughly $18,000 a year. Still $7,000 short of tuition. That gap would have to come from scholarships, merit-based ones. The kind you earn, not the kind you're handed. I found the cheapest housing option within walking distance of campus, a tiny room in a house shared with 4 other students. $300 a month, utilities included. No parking, no AC, no privacy. It would have to do. My schedule crystallized into something brutal but precise. 5 a.m. Work at the cafe. 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Classes. 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Study, work, or TA duties. Sleep. 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. 4 to 5 hours a night. For 4 years. The week before I left for college, Victoria posted photos from her Cancun trip with friends. Sunset beaches, margaritas, laughter. I was packing my thrift store comforter into a second-hand suitcase. Our lives were already diverging, and we hadn't even started yet. But here's what kept me going. Every night before sleep, I'd whisper the same thing to myself. This is the price of freedom. Freedom from their expectations. Freedom from their judgment. Freedom from needing their approval. I didn't know then how right I'd be, and I didn't know that somewhere on the Eastbrook campus there was a professor who would see something in me that my own parents never could. Freshman year Thanksgiving. I sat alone in my tiny rented room, phone pressed to my ear, listening to the sounds of home. Laughter in the background, the clink of dishes, the warm chaos of a family gathering I wasn't part of. Hello, Frances? Mom's voice was distant, distracted. Hi, Mom. Happy Thanksgiving. Oh, yes, happy Thanksgiving, honey. How are you? I'm okay. Is Dad there? Can I talk to him? A pause. Then I heard his voice in the background, muffled but clear. Tell her I'm busy. The words landed like stones. Mom's voice returned, artificially bright. Your father's just in the middle of something. Victoria was telling the funniest story. It's fine, Mom. Are you eating enough? Do you need anything? I looked around my room, at the instant ramen on my desk, at the second-hand blanket, at the textbook I'd borrowed from the library because I couldn't afford to buy it. No, Mom, I don't need anything. Okay, well, we love you. Love you too. I hung up. Then I opened Facebook. The first thing in my feed was a photo Victoria had just posted. Mom, Dad, and Victoria at the dining table, candles lit, turkey gleaming. The caption? Thankful for my amazing family. My amazing family. I zoomed in on the photo. 3 place settings, 3 chairs, not 4. They hadn't even set a place for me. I sat there for a long time, staring at that image. Something shifted inside me that night. The ache I'd carried for years, the longing for their approval, their attention, their love. It didn't disappear, but it changed. It hollowed out. And where the pain used to be, there was only quiet emptiness. Strangely, that emptiness gave me something the pain never had. Clarity. Second semester freshman year. Microeconomics 101. Dr. Margaret Smith was legendary at Eastbrook. 30 years of teaching, published in every major journal, terrifying reputation. Students whispered that she hadn't given an A in 5 years. I sat in the 3rd row, took meticulous notes, and turned in my first essay expecting a B- at best. The paper came back with 2 letters at the top, A+. Beneath the grade was a note in red ink. See me after class. My heart dropped. What did I do wrong? After the lecture, I approached her desk. Dr. Smith was already packing her bag, silver hair pulled back in a severe bun, reading glasses perched on her nose. Frances Townsend? Yes, ma'am. Sit down. I sat. She looked at me over her glasses. This essay is one of the best pieces of undergraduate writing I've seen in 20 years. Where did you study before this? Nowhere special. Public high school. Nothing advanced. And your family? Academics? I hesitated. My family doesn't support my education, financially or otherwise. The words came out before I could stop them. Dr. Smith set down her pen. Tell me more. So I did. For the first time, I told someone the whole story. The favoritism, the rejection, the 3 jobs, the 4 hours of sleep. All of it. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that changed my trajectory forever. Have you heard of the Whitfield Scholarship? I nodded slowly. I've seen it, but it's impossible. 20 students nationwide, she said. Full ride, living stipend, and the recipients at partner schools give the commencement address at graduation. She leaned forward. Frances, you have potential. Extraordinary potential. But potential means nothing if no one sees it. Let me help you be seen. The next 2 years blurred into a relentless rhythm. Wake at 4 a.m., coffee shop by 5, classes by 9, library until midnight, sleep, repeat. I missed every party, every football game, every late-night pizza run. While other students built memories, I built a GPA, 4.0, 6 semesters straight. There were moments I almost broke. Once I fainted during a shift at the cafe. Exhaustion, the doctor said. Dehydration. I was back at work the next day. God. Another time I sat in my car. Rebecca's car, actually. She'd lent it to me for a job interview and cried for 20 minutes. Not because anything specific had happened, just because everything had happened, all at once, for years. But I kept going. Junior year, Dr. Smith called me into her office. I'm nominating you for the Whitfield. I stared at her. You're serious? 10 essays, 3 rounds of interviews. It'll be the hardest thing you've ever done. She paused. But you've already survived harder. The application consumed 3 months of my life. Essays about resilience, leadership, vision, phone interviews with panels of professors, background checks, reference letters. Somewhere in the middle of it, Victoria texted me, first time in months. Mom says you don't come home for Christmas anymore? That's kinda sad, TBH. I read the message. Then I put my phone face down and went back to my essay. The truth? I couldn't afford a plane ticket, but even if I could, I wasn't sure I wanted to go. That Christmas, I sat alone in my rented room with a cup of instant noodles and a tiny paper Christmas tree Rebecca had made me. No family, no presents, no drama. It was somehow the most peaceful holiday I'd ever had. The email arrived at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in September senior year. Subject: Whitfield Foundation. Final round notification. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely scroll. Dear Ms. Townsend, congratulations. Out of 200 applicants, you have been selected as one of 50 finalists for the Whitfield Scholarship. The final round will consist of an in-person interview at our New York headquarters. 50 finalists, 20 winners. I had a 40% chance, if all things were equal. But things were never equal. The interview was scheduled for a Friday, in New York, 800 miles away. I checked my bank account, $847. A last-minute flight would cost $400 minimum, a hotel would eat the rest, and I had rent due in 2 weeks. I was about to close the laptop when Rebecca knocked on my door. Frankie, you look like you saw a ghost. I showed her the email. She screamed. Literally screamed. You're going, she said. End of discussion. Beck, I can't afford... Bus ticket, $53, leaves Thursday night, arrives Friday morning. I'll lend you the money. I can't ask you to... You're not asking. I'm telling. She grabbed my shoulders. Frankie, this is your shot. You don't get another one. So I took the bus. 8 hours overnight, arriving in Manhattan at 5 a.m. with a stiff neck and a borrowed blazer from the thrift store. The interview waiting room was full of polished candidates. Designer bags, parents hovering nearby, easy confidence. I looked down at my second-hand outfit, my scuffed shoes. I don't belong here, I thought. Then I remembered Dr. Smith's words. You don't need to belong. You need to show them you deserve to. 2 weeks after the interview, I was walking to my morning shift when my phone buzzed. Subject: Whitfield Scholarship. Decision. I stopped in the middle of the sidewalk. A cyclist swerved around me, cursing. I didn't hear him. I opened the email. Dear Ms. Townsend, we are pleased to inform you that you have been selected as a Whitfield Scholar for the class of 2025. I read it 3 times, then a 4th. Then I sat down on the curb and cried. Not quiet tears. Ugly, heaving sobs that made strangers stare. 3 years of exhaustion, loneliness, and grinding determination poured out of me right there on the sidewalk outside the morning grind. I was a Whitfield Scholar. Full tuition. $10,000 a year for living expenses. And the right to transfer to any partner university in their network. That night, Dr. Smith called me personally. Frances, I just got the notification. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for everything. There's something else, she said. The Whitfield allows you to transfer to a partner school for your final year. Whitmore University is on the list. Whitmore, Victoria's school. If you transfer, Dr. Smith continued, you'd graduate with their top honors, and the Whitfield Scholar delivers the commencement speech. My breath caught. Frances, you'd be valedictorian. You'd speak at graduation in front of everyone. I thought about my parents, about them sitting in the audience for Victoria's big day, completely unaware I was there. I'm not doing this for revenge, I said quietly. I know. I'm doing it because Whitmore has the better program for my career. I know that too. I pause. But if they happen to see you shine, that's just a bonus. I made my decision that night, and I told no one in my family. 3 weeks into my final semester at Whitmore, it happened. I was in the library, third floor, tucked into a corner carrel with my constitutional law textbook, when I heard a voice that made my stomach drop. Oh my God. Francis? I looked up. Victoria stood 3 feet away, a half-empty iced latte in her hand, mouth hanging open. What are you? How are you? She couldn't form a complete sentence. I closed my book calmly. Hi, Victoria. You go here? Since when? Mom and Dad didn't say. Mom and Dad don't know. She blinked. What do you mean they don't know? Exactly what I said. They don't know I'm here. Victoria set her coffee down, still staring at me like I'd materialized from thin air. But how? They're not paying for. How did you? I paid for it myself. For Whitmore. I transferred. Scholarship. The word hung between us. Victoria's expression shifted. Confusion, disbelief, and something else. Something that looked almost like shame. Why didn't you tell anyone? I looked at her. My twin sister. The one who'd gotten everything I'd been denied. The one who'd never asked, not once in 4 years, how I was surviving. Did you ever ask? She opened her mouth, closed it. I gathered my books. I need to get to class. Francis, wait. She grabbed my arm. Do you hate us? The family? I looked at her hand on my sleeve, then at her face. No, I said quietly. You can't hate people you've stopped caring about. I pulled my arm free and walked away. That night, my phone lit up with missed calls. Mom, Dad, Victoria again. I silenced them all. Whatever was coming, it would happen on my terms, not theirs. Victoria called them immediately. I know because she told me later when everything was over. She's here, Victoria had said, barely through the door of her apartment. Frances is at Whitmore. She's been here since September. According to Victoria, the silence on the other end lasted a full 10 seconds. Then Dad's voice. That's impossible. She doesn't have the money. She said scholarship. What scholarship? She's not scholarship material. Dad, I saw her in the library. I'll handle this. Dad called me the next morning. First time he'd dialed my number in 3 years. Francis, we need to talk. About what? Victoria says you're at Whitmore. You transferred without telling us? I didn't think you'd care. A pause. Of course I care. You're my daughter. Am I? The words came out flat, not bitter, just factual. You told me I wasn't worth the investment. Remember that? Silence. Francis, That was 4 years ago, in the living room. You said I wasn't special, that there was no return on investment with me. I don't remember saying. I do. More silence. Then. We should discuss this in person. At graduation. We're coming for Victoria's ceremony and. I know. You know? I'll see you there, Dad. I hung up. He didn't call back. That night, I sat in my small apartment, the one I'd paid for myself with money I'd earned, and thought about that conversation. He didn't remember, or he chose not to remember. Either way, he'd never actually seen me. Not really, but in 3 months he would. And when that moment came, it wouldn't be because I forced him to look. It would be because he couldn't look away. The weeks before graduation became a strange kind of quiet. I knew they were coming. Mom, Dad, Victoria, the whole perfect family unit, descending on campus to celebrate Victoria's big achievement. They'd booked a hotel, planned a dinner, ordered flowers. For her. They still didn't know the full picture. Victoria had told them I was at Whitmore, but she didn't know about the Whitfield. She didn't know about the valedictorian honor. She didn't know I'd been asked to deliver the commencement address. Dr. Smith called to check in. She'd made the trip to watch. Do you want me to notify your family about the speech? No. Francis, I want them to hear it when everyone else does. She was quiet for a moment. This isn't about making them feel bad? No, I said honestly. It's about telling my truth. If they happen to be in the audience, that's their business. Rebecca drove up for the ceremony. She helped me pick out a dress. The first new piece of clothing I'd bought in 2 years that wasn't from a thrift store. Navy blue, simple, elegant. You look like a CEO, she said. I feel like I'm going to throw up. Same thing, probably. The night before graduation, I couldn't sleep. Not from nerves, not exactly. I kept wondering, what would I feel when I saw them? Would the old pain come rushing back? Would I want them to hurt the way I'd hurt? I stared at the ceiling until 3 a.m. searching for answers. What I found surprised me. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want them to suffer. I just wanted to be free. And tomorrow, one way or another, I would be. Hey, I want to pause here for a second. If you've ever been underestimated by your own family, if you know what it feels like to work twice as hard for half the recognition, type "same" in the comments. I want to know how many of us have been through this. And if you're enjoying the story so far, hit that like button. It really helps. Now, back to graduation morning. May 17th. Bright sun. Perfect blue sky. The kind of weather that felt almost ironic. Whitmore's stadium seated 3,000. By 9 a.m., it was nearly full, families pouring through the gates, flowers and balloons everywhere, the hum of excited conversation filling the air. I arrived early, slipping in through the faculty entrance. My regalia was different from the other graduates. Standard black gown, yes, but across my shoulders lay the gold sash of valedictorian. Pinned to my chest was the Whitfield Scholar medallion, its bronze surface catching the morning light. I took my seat in the VIP section at the front of the stage area, reserved for honors students, for speakers. 20 feet away, in the general graduate section, Victoria was taking selfies with her friends. She hadn't seen me yet. And in the front row of the audience, dead center, best seats in the house, sat my parents. Dad wore his navy suit, the one he saved for important occasions. Mom had on a cream-colored dress, a massive bouquet of roses in her lap. Between them sat an empty chair, probably reserved for coats and purses. Not for me. Never for me. Dad was fiddling with his camera, adjusting settings, preparing to capture Victoria's moment. Mom was smiling, waving at someone across the aisle. They looked so happy, so proud. They had no idea. The university president approached the podium. The crowd hushed. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Whitmore University's class of 2025 commencement ceremony. Applause. Cheers. I sat perfectly still, hands folded in my lap. In a few minutes, they would call my name, and everything would change. I looked once more at my parents, at their expectant faces, their cameras ready for Victoria's shining moment. Soon, I thought. Soon, you'll finally see me. The ceremony proceeded in waves. Welcome address, acknowledgements, honorary degrees, the usual pageantry that stretches time like taffy. Then the university president returned to the podium. And now, it is my great honor to introduce this year's valedictorian and Whitfield Scholar. I felt my heart rate spike. A student who has demonstrated extraordinary resilience, academic excellence, and strength of character. In the audience, my mother leaned over to whisper something to my father. He nodded, adjusting his camera lens, pointed at Victoria. Please join me in welcoming Frances Townsend. For one suspended moment, nothing happened. Then I stood. 3,000 pairs of eyes turned toward me. I walked toward the podium, my heels clicking against the stage floor, the gold sash swaying with each step. The Whitfield medallion gleamed against my chest. And in the front row, I watched my parents' faces transform. Dad's hand froze on his camera. Mom's bouquet slipped sideways. Confusion first. Who is that? Then recognition. Wait, is that? Then shock. It can't be. Then nothing but pale, stricken silence. Victoria's head snapped toward the stage. Her jaw dropped. I saw her mouth my name. Frances? I reached the podium, adjusted the microphone. 3,000 people applauded. My parents didn't. They just sat there, frozen, as if someone had pressed pause on their entire world. For the first time in my life, they were looking at me. Really looking. Not at Victoria, not through me. At me. I let the applause fade. Then I leaned into the microphone. Good morning, everyone. My voice was steady, calm. 4 years ago, I was told I wasn't worth the investment. In the front row, my mother's hand flew to her mouth. Dad's camera hung useless at his side. And I began to speak. I was told I didn't have what it takes. My voice carried across the stadium, amplified by the sound system, steady as a heartbeat. I was told to expect less from myself because others expected less from me. 3,000 people sat in perfect silence. So I learned to expect more. I spoke about the 3 jobs, the 4 hours of sleep, the instant ramen dinners, and the second-hand textbooks. I spoke about what it meant to build something from nothing, not because you wanted to prove anyone wrong, but because you needed to prove yourself right. I didn't name names. I didn't point fingers. I didn't need to. The greatest gift I received wasn't financial support or encouragement. It was the chance to discover who I am without anyone's validation. In the front row, my mother was crying. Not the proud, joyful tears of a graduation ceremony, something raw, something that looked like grief. My father sat motionless, staring at the podium like he was seeing a stranger. Maybe he was. To anyone who has ever been told you're not enough, I paused, letting the words settle. You are. You always have been. I looked out at the sea of faces, at the other graduates who'd struggled, at the parents who'd sacrificed, at the friends who'd believed, and yes, at my own family, sitting in the front row like statues. I am not here because someone believed in me. I am here because I learned to believe in myself. The applause that followed was thunderous. People rose to their feet. Standing ovation. 3,000 people cheering for a girl they'd never met. I stepped back from the podium, and as I descended the stage, I saw James Whitfield III waiting at the bottom. But he wasn't the only one. The reception area buzzed with champagne and congratulations. I was shaking hands with the dean when I saw them approaching. My parents, moving through the crowd like they were wading through water. Dad reached me first. Frances. His voice was hoarse. Why didn't you tell us? I accepted a glass of sparkling water from a passing server, took a sip. Did you ever ask? He opened his mouth, closed it. Mom arrived beside him, mascara streaked down her cheeks. Baby, I'm so sorry, we didn't know. So sorry. You knew. I kept my voice even. You chose not to see. That's not fair, Dad started. Fair? The word came out calm, not sharp. You told me I wasn't worth investing in. You paid $250,000 for Victoria's education and told me to figure it out myself. That's what happened. Mom reached for me. I stepped back. Frances, please. I'm not angry, I said. And I meant it. The anger had burned away years ago, replaced by something cleaner. But I'm not the same person who left your house 4 years ago. Dad's jaw tightened. I made a mistake. I said things I shouldn't have. You said what you believed. I met his eyes. You were right about one thing, though. I wasn't worth the investment, not to you, but I was worth every sacrifice I made for myself. He flinched like I'd struck him. James Whitfield III appeared at my elbow, extending his hand. Miss Townsend, brilliant speech. The foundation is proud to have you. I shook his hand while my parents watched. The founder of one of the nation's most prestigious scholarships, treating their worthless daughter like a treasure. I saw it hit them then. the full weight of what they'd missed, what they'd thrown away. After Mr. Whitfield moved on, I turned back to my parents. They looked smaller somehow, diminished. I'm not going to pretend everything's fine, I said. Because it's not. Francis, please, Mom whispered. Can we just talk? As a family? We are talking. I mean, really talk. Come home for the summer. Let us. No. The word was firm but not harsh. I have a job in New York. I start in 2 weeks. I won't be coming home. Dad stepped forward. You're cutting us off? Just like that? I'm setting boundaries. I kept my voice steady. There's a difference. What do you want from us? His voice cracked. For the first time in my life, I saw my father look lost. Tell me what you want, and I'll do it. I considered the question. Really considered it. I don't want anything from you anymore. That's the point. I took a breath. But if you want to talk, really talk, you can call me. I might answer, I might not. It depends on whether you're calling to apologize or to make yourself feel better. Mom was crying again. We love you, Francis. We've always loved you. Maybe, I said. But love isn't just words, it's choices, and you made yours. Victoria appeared at the edge of our circle, hovering uncertainly. Francis. She hesitated. Congratulations. Thank you. No hug, no tearful reconciliation, but no cruelty either. I'll call you sometime, I told her. If you want. She nodded, eyes wet. I'd like that. I turned and walked away. Not running, not escaping, just moving forward. Dr. Smith was waiting by the exit, a quiet smile on her face. You did well, she said. I'm free, I replied. And for the first time in my life, I meant it. The ripples started before my parents even left campus. At the reception, I watched it happen. Watched the slow realization spread through the crowd of family, friends, and acquaintances. Mrs. Patterson from the country club approached my mother. Diane, I didn't know Francis went to Whitmore. And Whitfield Scholar? You must be so proud. My mother's smile looked like it hurt. Yes, we're very proud. How on earth did you keep it a secret? If my daughter won that, I'd have it on billboards. My mother didn't have an answer. Over the following weeks, the questions multiplied. Dad's business partners asked about me. Saw your daughter's speech online. Incredible story. You must have really pushed her to excel. He couldn't tell them the truth, that he'd done the opposite. Victoria called me 3 days after graduation. Mom hasn't stopped crying. Dad barely talks. He just sits there. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? I thought about it. I don't want them to suffer, but I'm not responsible for their feelings. Silence on the line. Francis, I'm sorry. I should have asked. I should have paid attention. I was so wrapped up in my own stuff and I know. You knew I was oblivious? I knew you had no reason to notice. I paused. Neither of us chose the way they raised us, but we can choose what happens next. More silence. Do you hate me? No. And I meant it. I don't have the energy to hate anyone. I just want to move forward. Can we maybe get coffee sometime? Start over? I thought about my sister. About the girl who'd gotten everything and still ended up empty-handed in a different way. Yeah, I said, I'd like that, I said. 2 months after graduation, I stood in my new apartment in Manhattan. It was small, a studio really, one window overlooking a brick wall, kitchen the size of a closet. But it was mine. I'd signed the lease with money from my first paycheck at Morrison & Associates, one of the top financial consulting firms in the city. Entry-level position, long hours, steep learning curve. I'd never been happier. Dr. Smith called on a Saturday morning. How's the big city treating you? Exhausting. Exciting. Everything they warned me about, she laughed. That sounds about right. I'm proud of you, Francis. I hope you know that. I do. Thank you for everything. Rebecca visited the following weekend. She walked into my studio, looked around, and declared it exactly as small and depressing as expected. Then she hugged me so hard I couldn't breathe. You did it, Frankie. You actually did it. One evening I found a letter in my mailbox. Handwritten. 3 pages. My mother's looping script. Dear Francis, I don't expect you to forgive us. I'm not sure I would if I were you. She wrote about regret, about the 1,000 small ways she'd failed me, about watching me on that stage and realizing she'd been looking at a stranger who was also her daughter. I know I can't undo what happened, but I want you to know. I see you now. I see who you've become. And I am so, so sorry I didn't see you sooner. I read the letter twice, then I folded it carefully and put it in my desk drawer. I didn't reply. Not yet. Not because I was punishing her, but because I needed time to figure out what I wanted to say, if anything. For once, the choice was mine. Okay, we're almost at the end. But I have to ask, if you were in my shoes, would you forgive your parents? Comment yes if you'd forgive them. No if you wouldn't. Or maybe if, like me, you'd need time. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. We've got so many more stories like this one coming. All right, here's how it all ended. I used to think love was something you earned, that if I was smart enough, good enough, successful enough, my parents would finally see me, that their approval was a prize at the end of some invisible race. 4 years of struggle taught me something different. You can't make someone love you the right way. You can't earn what should have been given freely. And you can't spend your whole life waiting for people to notice your worth. At some point, you have to notice it yourself. I look at my life now, my apartment, my job, my friends who chose me, and I realize something. I built this, every piece of it, not out of anger, not out of spite, but out of necessity. My parents' rejection didn't break me. It rebuilt me. The girl who sat in that living room 4 years ago, desperate for her father's approval, she doesn't exist anymore. In her place is a woman who knows exactly what she's worth and doesn't need anyone else to validate it. Some nights, I still think about them, about the family dinners I wasn't invited to, the Christmas photos without my face, the $250,000 they spent on my sister while I ate ramen in a rented room. It still hurts sometimes. I don't think it ever stops hurting completely, but the hurt doesn't control me anymore. I've learned something that took years to understand. Forgiveness isn't about letting someone off the hook. It's about releasing your own grip on the pain. I'm not there yet, not fully, but I'm working on it. And for the first time in my life, I'm working on it for me. Not to make anyone else comfortable, not to keep the peace, just for me. 6 months after graduation, my phone rang. Dad. I almost let it go to voicemail, almost. Hello? Francis. His voice sounded different, tired. Thank you for picking up. I wasn't sure I would. Silence. Then, I deserve that. I waited. I've been thinking, every day since graduation, trying to figure out what to say to you. He paused. I keep coming up empty. Then just say what's true. Another long pause. I was wrong. Not just about the money. About everything. The way I treated you. The things I said. The years I didn't call, didn't ask, didn't... His voice cracked. I have no excuse. I was your father. And I failed you. I listened to him breathe on the other end of the line. I hear you, I said finally. That's all? What did you expect? I don't know. I thought maybe you'd tell me how to fix this. It's not my job to tell you how to fix what you broke. More silence. You're right. He sounded older than I'd ever heard him. You're absolutely right. But I took a breath. If you want to try, I'm willing to let you. You are? I'm not promising anything. No family dinners, no pretending everything's fine. But if you want to have a real conversation, honest, no deflecting, I'll listen. That's more than I deserve. Yes, it is. He laughed, a small, broken sound. You've always been the strong one, Francis. I was just too blind to see it. Yeah, I said. You were. We talked for a few more minutes. Nothing profound. Just two people trying to find common ground across years of wreckage. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. It's been 2 years since graduation. I'm still in New York, still at Morrison and Associates, though I've been promoted twice. I'm starting my MBA at Columbia this fall, paid for by my company. The kid who ate ramen and slept 4 hours a night? She'd hardly recognize me now. But I haven't forgotten her. I carry her with me every day. Victoria and I meet for coffee once a month. It's awkward sometimes. We're learning to be sisters as adults, which is strange because we never really were as kids. But she's trying. I can see that now. I'm sorry I didn't see it, she told me at our last coffee date. All those years. I was so focused on what I was getting, I never asked what you weren't. I know. How do you not hate me for that? Because you didn't create the system, you just benefited from it. My parents came to visit last month, first time in New York. It was uncomfortable, stilted. Dad spent half the time apologizing. Mom spent the other half crying. But they came. They showed up at my door, in my city, in the life I built without them. That meant something. I'm not ready to call us a family again. That word carries too much weight, too much history. But we're something, working on something. Last month, I wrote a check to Eastbrook State's scholarship fund. $10,000. Anonymous. For students without family financial support. Rebecca cried when I told her. Frankie, you're literally changing someone's life. Someone changed mine. I thought about Dr. Smith, about the coffee shop shifts at dawn, about the night I bookmarked the Whitfield Scholarship, never believing I'd actually win it, about how far I've come, and about how far I still want to go. If you're watching this and something in my story resonated with you, if you've ever been overlooked, underestimated, or told you weren't good enough by the people who were supposed to love you most, I want you to hear this. They were wrong. They were always wrong. Your worth is not determined by who sees it. It's not a number on a check or a seat at a table or a place in a photo. Your worth exists whether or not a single person on this planet acknowledges it. I spent 18 years of my life waiting for my parents to notice me. I spent 4 more proving that I didn't need them to. And you know what I finally learned? The approval I was chasing was never going to fill the hole inside me. Only I could do that. Some of you are estranged from your families. Some of you are still fighting for scraps of attention. Some of you are just starting to realize that the love you're getting isn't the love you deserve. Wherever you are in that journey, I want you to know it's okay to protect yourself. It's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to decide that you matter more than keeping the peace. And it's okay to forgive, but only when you're ready, not a moment before. You don't need your parents, your siblings, or anyone else to confirm what you already know. You are enough. You always have been. Take a look in the mirror and say it out loud. I am enough. That's the first step. The rest? That's up to you. But I believe in you. Because if a girl who is called not worth the investment can stand on a stage in front of 3,000 people as a Whitfield scholar, you can do anything. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story meant something to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And leave a comment. What part resonated with you the most? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss our next story. There are more family drama stories waiting for you in the description below. See you in the next one.